Coach Gilliam, let me welcome you to the show this morning. And I should say it's a profile on the legendary Coach Joe Gilliam, because you are, in a real sense, a legend. And one of the reasons we wanted to have you on this show today was to talk about Joe Gilliam and the legend that has built up around Coach Joe Gilliam. And let's start off by doing that, Coach, by having you to talk about something that I know that you love quite dear, and that's Tennessee State University. And talk about coming to Tennessee State University, and then we'll develop it out with other things later on.
Well, John Merritt and I were at Jackson State College, Jackson, Mississippi, and we were just finishing up back-to-back Black National Championship football teams. So we were an attractive candidate for Dr. Davis, at the time, the president of Tennessee A&I, it was called then. So he, through Homer Wheaton, he contacts us and asks us to meet him in Canton, Mississippi. Well, we were still employed at Jackson, and so we met him there in Canton, Mississippi, and he said he wanted us to come here. He wanted us to be, because he thought he and I needed a football change. So we talked extensively for a day, and then Mary and I went back to Jackson, then we came back up the next day and we talked, and Dr. Davis made us, at the time, an offer that we could not refuse, as the saying goes. And so we came to here. What we had to do at the time was, it was just Merritt and I, but I thought that it was imperative that Coach Coleman be with us. And at the time, Merritt was not of the same mind. And so with our discussions, I finally convinced Merritt that we absolutely had to have Alvin Coleman with us. And so he ultimately relented. And so the three families came from Jackson in the summer of 1963 to Tennessee A&I. Everything that you could imagine at the time that a president could do for coaches and their families, Dr. Davis did for us. So we settled in pretty quickly, and I had to finish up my master's work at the University of Kentucky. I had a couple courses there left, so I did that in that first summer, '63. We didn't have a difficult time getting acclimated. There were a couple coaches that were holdovers on the staff, and they were good coaches. Coach Howard Green, Coach Shannon Little, Coach Raymond Whitman, and Coach J.C. Coffey. Now, I knew Coffey perhaps longer than any of the rest of these people, because as a youngster, my first scholarship was to the University of Indiana, football scholarship. And at the time, I matriculated to Bloomington. Coffey was a student assistant for our head football coach, Bo McMillan. And so I met, Coffey was the one who situated me at Indiana. After I got lost a couple times trying to get there. But that was a long time before any of this. So I knew J.C. Coffey way before any of these other men knew him. And we had a national championship team there in Indiana, the only football national championship that Indiana ever had. As a matter of fact, as we look back in history, Indiana University in a game, and I forget now, see, because this is 1945, I forget now exactly who we were playing, but we fielded the first all-black backfield. George Talafaro was our tailback. I was a quarterback. And a youngster from Michigan named Buckner, whose son later on played basketball there in Indiana, Buckner, he was our fullback, and a fellow from New Jersey named Mel Grooms was the tailback. So it was the first all-black backfield that played in a game in the Big Ten. Of course, history kind of loses that. But we started, Merritt and I and Coleman started at Tennessee State.
Good. And Coach, let us take this first commercial break at this point, and then we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. We're talking to Coach Joe Gilliam.